I'm Carol Ann Ford. I played Susan in Doctor Who. And I've been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast, and it's absolutely amazing. So, goodbye everybody, and it's been fun talking to you.
The tangents is going to continue all the way to episode 155 of the Five-ish, I'm out of practice, Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream. A love, true love will follow you forever. So treasure your love. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you join us. Let's start off like we do every week by going to the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Bethlehem.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello everyone, we're back. Yay!
Hi everybody.
We're back.
So Rachel, I have a question for you.
I didn't want to go with the most obvious quote.
Okay, I was going to say, how long did it take you with the quote?
To decide which one you were going to use?
Oh, I knew
immediately.
Done the
Sicilian routine.
I knew immediately which one I wanted to. That's the one I wanted to use because I figured that Inigo Montoya was too obvious. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the Battle of Woods.
We'll probably quote most of it throughout this podcast. So, yeah. Spoilers.
Yeah.
In case you haven't guessed what we're talking about yet, dear listener, but there's news to get to first.
Yes.
And since we missed last week, there's a lot of news. So perhaps
just a lot of the news. So, and actually, unfortunately, our first bit of news is 10 o'clock news, which dropped almost literally right after we finished recording 2 weeks ago. So,
yeah, we were like all excited. There was no 10 o'clock news, and then that popped up, and like,
yeah,
really?
Well,
yeah.
Okay. I guess they gave us a break.
Yeah, a little bit. So, yes. So Disney has lost another legend. I don't want anyone to think that maybe I overuse that particular label, but with some of these people that have passed away recently, that they really truly are. Xavier X Atencio, he was an animator and an Imagineer. He passed away at the age of 98, and he worked on movies like Pinocchio and Fantasia. But to me, more importantly, he worked on some Disney attractions, including my personal favorite, Pirates of the Caribbean. Obviously at 98, that's a very long life. And he's got a lot of body of work that still lives both in the movies and in the parks. It's unfortunate that we've lost another person whose fingerprints are all over the Disney parks. I will say a little thank you for him when I go to Disney next. When I ride Pirates 5 bazillion times because it's my favorite.
It also says he worked on Haunted Mansion.
Yes, but that's not my favorite.
Well, I know. I was just saying. Well, I wouldn't say Haunted Mansion is my absolute favorite, but I do love it. So I was like, I would, yeah.
Can I just say I really like his name? Thing to say, but I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you ever listen to Lou or anyone else, no one anyone else of those people that worked at Disney, Walt, they called him Walt. People refer to him as Walt. Marty Sklar, he's Marty Sklar, or Marty or whatever. But X Atencio, they never called him Xavier. It was X or X Atencio. Which was always nice when we do, some sort of photo challenge and I needed something for an X. It was Disney related.
Well, there you go.
Thank you. So,
Apparently, if you're named Xavier, you get nicknamed X.
Yes.
Because that seems like a thing.
Yep.
Hey, it works.
It works.
It does.
He will definitely be missed, but we are grateful to him for all his great work,
Mm-hmm.
both at the parks and the movies, like Rachel said.
Yeah. Moving on to convention news. Unfortunately, Time Eddie 3 has a cancellation. Carol Ann Ford has had to cancel her appearance at Time Eddie. So.
So yeah, but apparently William, and so all the classic panels that they were doing with him and Carol Ann will just be with William Russell.
Yep.
So, but that kind of stinks because
Mm-hmm.
Carol Ann Ford, like she was the very, very first companion
Mm-hmm.
in Doctor Who, and that's, getting to meet her would be like meeting someone who has such a big role in the history of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else. And, I've heard interviews with her, and she's just so fun to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though there's no way I was going to make it to Time Eddie this year, but I'm a little sad. But I hope she's okay. I hope this isn't a health-related thing, because, darn it, I've had enough of the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely wish her well,
Mm-hmm.
whatever's going on.
Mm. But in happier convention news, if you've checked our Facebook page recently, we are doing a giveaway. We are giving away a free ticket to Kokomo Con. So that is coming up next month in Kokomo, Indiana. So obviously, it's probably best that you're local to Indiana and planning on going in the first place. Yeah,
or even thinking about it, like, oh, I wish I could go, but I can't afford to or whatever. Well,
Yeah.
Here you can get a free ticket.
Yes, so save yourself $10, which is always good. So yeah, we've got a form you can fill out. It's really easy. It's up on our blog right now. Only 2 people have entered, so the odds are in your favor, I guess. Right now, I guess the 2 people that entered have a 50-50 shot of winning. But you do have until, I think I made it October 1st as the deadline. So
you have the rest of this week
to
get in.
Enter. And then we will contact the winner, and the ticket will just be available for them to pick up when they get there. So, but we just wanted to do this, especially considering I was at Kokomo Con last year. Obviously, I did a short a recap of the event last year. That's where I got to become a cosplay judge in the last minute. So that was my first foray into cosplay judging. But I can't go to Kokomo Con this year because I will be at Time Lord Expo. So.
And the rest of us probably won't be in the area to go.
Well, and if you guys happen to be in the area that weekend, I would be like, get your butts over to Ohio, over to Time Lord Expo. Come one more state over. You're in the wrong state.
Yes. I was just gonna say, if whoever wins this ticket, you don't have to do this, but it would be very nice if you'd write in and tell us about the convention, and what you saw, what you enjoyed, your general experience. Just let us know. Mm-hmm. How did it go?
Yep.
If you feel so inclined. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just putting a bug in your ear.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah. So, yay, free stuff. We always like free stuff. People love free stuff.
To win.
Yes.
Be a winner.
Yes.
Be a winner.
But you can't be a winner unless you enter.
Exactly.
Be in it to win it.
Yep.
That too.
Click it to win it. So. Alright, let's move on to fandom news. First up, we got a trailer for the Punisher series, which will be dropping on Netflix at some point between now and the end of the year, because their marketing has made it so that no one has any idea when this will actually drop. Although a lot of people think it will be November around Veterans Day. So, because, Punisher, military, that sort of thing. That's what a lot of people are speculating. Sometime in November, maybe, possibly. But right now, the marketing is being very, redacted and classified. Anyway. So
very cagey about how they're doing this.
Very cagey about it, but it looks awesome. It's definitely in the same vein as the previous Netflix Marvel series, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, The Defenders, Luke Cage, all of those. It's the exact same universe. Obviously, we saw the Punisher in Daredevil Season 2. More than likely, if you've not caught up, you could probably just watch Daredevil Season 2 and be fine to watch the Punisher series, because even Chauncey is like, oh, I'm gonna watch that. It may partially have to do with the fact that they used a Metallica song in the trailer, which was very awesome. Like, the trailer dropped, and I was like, oh, cool, and I hit play, and within, the first 2 notes, I'm like, holy crap, they're using Metallica. That's a Metallica song, and then it gets further in the trailer. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is Metallica.
And then you looked over your shoulder, and Chauncey's, just randomly appeared, I'm sure.
Yeah. I sent it to him. I'm like, I think you're really going to like the music in this trailer. He's like,
why do you say that? Push play. Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, Metallica.
I follow Chauncey on Facebook. I see the stuff he likes.
Yep.
So, and if you're not familiar with Metallica, I'll give you a short little factoid here. The song that is used in the trailer is a song called One. And it is based off a short story called Johnny Got His Gun, I think, or something like that. So it's about the military. It's about life in the military. It's about seeing war and all the things that come with war, all the destruction and death and the things that war will do to a person when they've experienced it, whether it's physical damage or psychological damage. And if you know anything about the Punisher, this is a very, very fitting song. So, I'm quite impressed, and Chauncey is thoroughly convinced that probably, they reached out to Metallica and said, hey, can we license your song for this trailer? And Metallica, could have easily gone, sure, but he's thoroughly convinced that Metallica probably took it a step further and actually re-edited the song to make it fit the trailer better. that wasn't Netflix and their people that did it, that it was Metallica that did it. Just based on what he's hearing, and he's the huge Metallica fan, so he might be right.
As good a theory as any.
Yeah. Yeah. But either way, I watched the trailer 5 times just for the music. I'm like, this is so awesome. No, anyway. 9 years ago, Chauncey took me to my first Metallica concert, and I'm like, is it over yet? Well, they play the one song I know some of the words to, and now it is later, and I've seen them twice this year, and I'm like, yeah, Metallica! So, anyway.
You've been sufficiently
I have been indoctrinated into the fandom. So, moving on.
This is interesting bit of news.
It is.
Seen this. It came out last week, but we'll talk about it here. It's Big Finish. They are doing a special First Doctor box set of audios, but with David Bradley playing the First Doctor, and he will be joined by not the actors who are still with us from that First Doctor era, but the ones who starred in Adventure in Space and Time.
Yeah.
So Jamie Glover, who played William Russell in Adventure in Space and Time, is playing Ian Chesterton, Gemma Powell will play Barbara Wright. She played Jacqueline Hill in the special, and Claudia Grant, who played Carol Ann Ford, is playing Susan. And when I first saw this news, I was like, that sounds really awesome. I was all ready to pre-order my copy, and then I saw some comments. This is why you don't read the comments section, people. People going arguing oh, does this, because William Russell and Carol Ann Ford are obviously still around and doing Big Finish, and I believe the Traveling the Vortex guys kind of touched on this a little bit when they talked about this. It's why, I guess in essence, quote, replace them, but at the same time, it's you can kind of see this as an alternate version of the First Doctor. Stories and that kind of thing, but at the same time I'm I kind of see where you're coming from on that. I don't know. I'm curious what you guys all think, and apparently Alex has a opinion about this as well. Hi, dear. But I'm still excited for it because I want to hear, because I'm excited for the First Doctor on TV with David Bradley. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think it'll depend on the story. I mean, there may be an explanation in story of why it's this particular group of people and not William Russell and Carol Ann Ford and whoever it is that they use to voice the First Doctor and if Big Finish.
Yeah. It's usually William Russell will do the voice, and he does a really good job. Well, him and Peter Purvis are both fair. They both have a different take on it when you listen to their versions of it, but it's still oh yeah, that's definitely a good impression. I guess I don't want to say impression, but that's the only word I can think of right now. Impersonation of William Hartnell doing the First Doctor.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of So I don't know. I'm still gonna buy it.
Yeah. I would wait just like with anything else. I would wait to pass judgment until you hear it and see how they make it work. Because I mean, Big Finish is not going to do anything willy-nilly just for the sake of doing it. I mean, they've been very Nicholas Briggs and all them have been very cognizant of canon and the way things, how it fits into the TV series.
Yeah. Unless they're kind of doing an Unbound with a twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered if maybe that was it. I mean, and they've been very respectful and sensitive with. I mean, because only recently they've recast a few voices. I know they've gotten a guy to play Ben Jackson because Michael Craze passed away. I can't remember how long ago it was, but now now so many years later they've gotten someone to play him on Big Finish, and he does a really good job. I've listened to a couple of the stories with him in it, and I think they've gotten someone to do the Third Doctor, and Fraser Hines does an impeccable Patrick Troughton.
Yes.
On those audios, so it's not like they're being. We're doing this to grab a quick buck, and because Doctor Who fans will buy anything. No, I mean they've with all this other stuff in the past. They're very careful and, like I said, respectful, and they honor the past, and they're like, okay, but they honor the past and move forward into the future and all those great cliches. I guess I don't know. So if it was anybody else, I'd kind of give it more of a side eye, but where it's Big Finish, I'm a little more like, okay, let's see where this goes. But at the same time, I can kind of see where people are coming from a little bit. I don't know. I shouldn't be of two minds, but I kind of am.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like, listen to it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a clever idea.
I'll be interested to see how they make it work.
Yeah.
wait and see, because Big Finish, they like to surprise us every now and then. So
this is true, and they're always fun surprises, I think.
Yep. Not too concerned right now.
Yes.
So, all right. Moving on. I guess unless you've been living under a rock, you probably are aware that they've been playing musical chairs with the director's chair for episode 9 for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
They had a director, and I don't remember what his name is, but he's got like two directing credits. Like, he directed Jurassic World, and it's the same guy that directed Jurassic World, and people are like, oh, well, he did that, so he'll be alright with Star Wars. But then he directed like this bomb of a movie that came out earlier this year that was just like apparently crap. And that set some people on edge, supposedly, and then there was he wanted to take things a certain way, and like Kathleen Kennedy was like, no. So there was a bit of drama, which, we kind of saw the same thing with the Han Solo movie, and now Ron Howard's directing it. So sometimes you get better after the second. Episode 9. They fired the director. Well, they parted ways, I guess. But I think it's
that's the diplomatic way of saying it.
That's the diplomatic way of saying he got fired. But so episode 9 was without a director for a little bit, and people were speculating, who else could do it. And finally, Lucasfilm and Disney and Kathleen Kennedy were like, hey, we've got a new director who knows what he's doing as far as Star Wars is concerned, considering he directed episode 7. J.J. Abrams.
Yay!
Might as well,
he gets to start the saga, he gets to end the saga.
Exactly. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you think about it. It's like, who else could help wrap up the trilogy with the guy who started the trilogy? So, but yeah, so he's gonna co-write it and direct it. So, and it's supposed to start production soon. It's supposed to come out Christmas time 2019. So, but yeah.
Well, they better, yeah. Soon is the operative word.
Yes.
Yep.
Soon, but not too soon, because we do have episode 8 that's coming out in a couple months, and the cast kind of will be doing like press and stuff for that. But yeah, I mean, they can be writing and start pre-production and storyboarding and all that fun stuff, and then probably start filming early next year after they get over the Christmas vacation, and let episode 8 go out into theaters and everyone go, well, porgs! So.
Yes.
I'm sorry that the porgs are kind of cute, but they're still not as cute as BB-8.
I saw something on Instagram with Wicket putting his arm around a porg, like, don't listen to these guys.
Yeah. Fun things going on over at Lucasfilm.
Oh, always.
Yeah, but I was not a big Star Wars fan for the longest time, and since they brought the series back with these new movies, that I've slowly grown to love it and enjoy it and respect it, and I think Kathleen Kennedy knows exactly what she's doing. She's the Kevin Feige of Lucas. You've got Feige with Marvel, you've got Kathleen Kennedy with all the Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and I think they both know exactly what they want and what the franchises need to do. So, thumbs up.
And
for me.
delve into the books later, that's going to be a whole other podcast, because yikes.
We will touch on that at some point.
Yeah.
It's on the list.
That you kind of have to tread carefully with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking as someone who's read quite a few of said novels.
Yep.
I haven't read as many as I would want, but my school library didn't have a big selection, and it was all very confusing, because, like, I read a book where, like, they had kids, and, like, where did these kids come from?
Yeah.
Or you'd get book 3 and find out, wait a minute, there was a part 1 and a part 2?
Yes, that's not, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
George Lucas and his handling of his intellectual
little
property.
handy dandy.
Yeah. That's a podcast episode. George Lucas and how he mishandled his intellectual property in the 90s. That's another show for another time.
Yeah. Add that to the topic list.
Anyway, moving on to another huge intellectual property of epic proportions. Game of Thrones. They are getting ready to start filming season 8, which is the last season. I'll shed a tear here. As if you follow any of the cast on the social medias, things are happening to get prepared, especially when it comes to hair. And I will say no more. Just go see Amelia Clark's Instagram, and you will see what I'm talking about. Anyway,
so now I'm wondering. Like, they film all these different endings.
Yes.
And, like, will they put them on the DVD, like on Clue?
That would be nice.
You can choose your own.
Yeah.
If you didn't like the one that was televised, hey, I like this one better.
Yeah. Yeah. So to help avoid the disaster that was leaks and spoilers and all sorts of crap that happened with season 7, HBO is going to try to curb potential series ending spoilers by filming multiple endings. We don't know how many, but it'll definitely be at least 2. Because 1 would not be multiple.
No.
They're going to have to talk to their international PR divisions and say,
among other things, they need to talk to their PR. They need to talk to their server security people.
Like, this is how you handle sensitive information. Lock that crap down.
Exactly. Little bit. I mean, there are some things that they film out in public, like a lot of shows do. So things get seen by people that go to the set. And sometimes there's potential spoilers. This is something they have done in the past, where they've not necessarily endings, but they have filmed multiple versions of the. I know Kit Harington said, like, for season 6, there was something. I think it was Jon Snow coming back, not being dead, where he filmed like 3 different scenes, different versions of the same scene. So. But yeah, hopefully whatever they film, how we know they're going to film multiple endings. Now what they do with those endings, if they go full on, do all of the coloring and all the CGI and all the special effects and actually create those endings to completion so that then they can, I don't know, if something does get leaked, that, because if it's one thing, if you see an ending and it's got, green screen and, pieces of the set missing and that sort of thing, and it's not complete, you're like, well, that's obviously not the ending because it's not finished. But, if they go to the full extent of doing full production on the endings, it'll make it even harder, I think, for people to figure out which one's going to be the actual ending.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, I think it might also depend on, how they decide to do the ending, because they know how George R.R. Martin wants the books to end and what his plan for the books to end is and what he would like this TV series to end. But that doesn't mean they'll necessarily, fulfill his wishes. Mm-hmm. So they may decide to do a completely different ending. That way, when you read the books, you're not spoiled, I guess. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And at this point, anything is possible.
When the books come out.
Yeah. With Game of Thrones at this point, anything is possible.
True.
Yeah. And we're just going to be sitting around doing a lot of speculating between now and 2019, probably.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine how much of a budget they have, to be able to film? Well, I don't know how much it costs to film scenes,
a lot.
But
it's one of the most expensive.
Yeah, I was going to say, imagine it's a lot.
It's one of the most expensive TV shows to produce on TV right now. So, pretty ridiculous how much money. But I mean, it's probably worth every penny to them to avoid, not having the series finale spoiled. So. Because I would be mad. I would get mad.
Yeah. Well, and it is HBO, and it's a big subscriber channel, so they seem to have money to burn.
A little bit.
Now, that doesn't account for people pirating the show, which I've seen reports that it's Game of Thrones is the most pirated show on TV right now.
Yeah.
So. But I'm like, yeah, HBO, they put a lot of cash into this, so I'm not surprised. Like they can afford to do this just to avoid, spoilers and things. Weird, because I've just noticed this, and maybe it's just the timing of it all, but Game of Thrones seems to be the show that really, and this might be a podcast topic all on its own, it's really made the populace at large gun shy about talking about spoilers, and every like it used to be the phrase spoiler alert wasn't everywhere, or wasn't it wasn't like normal. I don't know, normal, I use the term in air quotes, normal people really didn't care about that kind of thing, but now everybody's like, oh, don't spoil me on that, I haven't watched the episode yet. And it's just like, your coworker or, your some relative or something is worried about that. And it's like, since when do you care about these things? But, it seems like Game of Thrones is the one that is a show that really, brought that into the public consciousness, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying, but maybe I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's just...
You're making sense.
Yeah.
Because I've heard middle schoolers use the past couple, even starting last year, spoiler alert, spoilers, and it's like, okay, you're not quite teenagers yet, and you're using it? Okay, all right, you're...
Because it's like
you're getting into fandom, okay.
Yeah, because I just think about like the shows I watched when I was younger, and even maybe like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I just didn't really. I really didn't care too much about being spoiled or spoiling other people. Like maybe if I was writing about something online, like from here on out, I'm going to talk about the whatever show I'm watching. So if you want to keep reading, there's going to be spoilers. But now it's like, even on the news, people talking about this, they're like, if you don't want to be spoiled, look away now. And it's like, when did that happen? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. So it's just interesting. Interesting phenomenon. Thanks to the internet.
Yeah.
When I was younger, the only time I really noticed, like, oh, spoiler, is when I was part of this forum for Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we talking about the newest book, and if you haven't read it yet, spoilers. The only time I've ever really noticed spoilers when I was younger.
But then, the people who are on that website anyway have read it, so it's like,
for the most part, there was like sometimes where people were like, "You spoil that!" Like they warned you, don't. But that's people in general.
Mm-hmm. It's all good. I don't know. It's fitting that they're going to these lengths, and that's the show that they're doing it for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's just my random plot bunny.
Excuse me. Yep. Well, we'll see if it works.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, like this last season. Holy cow! I'm surprised I was not as spoiled as I was, because like there was a few times where I was on something that was not even related to Game of Thrones. I was reading the comments, and someone spoiled something about, like, really? What the hell? I was really mad about that. Like, I thought, okay, maybe they're trolling, maybe it's fake, and then when I watched it, I'm like, wait, I read that. I got really loud at that point, sorry.
All right. And our last bit of news comes from Once Upon a Time. And I guess they're
very happy
trying to give us a reason to come back. They're dangling a carrot.
Yes. And what a carrot
green
this is.
Carrot.
At least it is for me. I don't know how other people are, but I love her.
It's a green and red-headed carrot.
Yes. Yep. It's a carrot in reverse.
Almost. Almost. Hopefully Bex takes that the right way. Anyway.
Yes, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's Rebecca Mader is coming back for a few episodes in season 7 of Once Upon a Time. Doesn't say how many specifically, but just says multiple episodes. And I'm like, yay.
Mm-hmm.
So even though like she was a regular on the show for a while, but now she's coming back as a guest star, and I'm like, good. You need some. Need some of the old guard.
Yes.
For the show, just to help it with the transition.
Yeah. Well, and it's good too, because we lost so much of the cast at the end of last season, including Rebecca, but everyone except for Rebecca left on their own volition. Rebecca got thrown out the door, essentially.
Well, so didn't Emily DeRava. She got written out too, but I think she might be coming back for at least one episode.
Yeah,
just one. Okay.
I think that's what at least I read. Maybe they're hedging and not saying that there's another one, because supposedly the Belle Rumpel storyline is supposed to wrap up, from one report that I read. But
yeah,
grain of salt till I see it on screen.
Yeah.
Although that bit of news didn't make as big a splash as Rebecca coming back, which I'm like, I wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
But
because she's fabulous.
She is quite fabulous. Yes.
Fabulous. So
yeah,
totally surprised yet pleased, and dang it, Once Upon a Time, you might just keep me watching.
Yeah.
The curiosity will probably get the best of me.
Yeah.
So, more than likely.
Still kind of bummed it's on Friday nights now, but
yeah,
that's mainly because I work.
No, you'll have to watch it on delay, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know. Depends. I mean, it's at 8.
Yeah.
So it might not be too bad.
Yeah.
That's sort of our motto with this next season of Once Upon a Time. It might not be too bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Think positive.
Yeah. Well,
think happy thoughts.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out in like a week and some change. It comes back a week from this Friday, so.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. First Friday in
forgetting,
October.
I keep forgetting it's September.
Yeah.
Even though the weather outside is colder, but
yeah,
it's
lucky you.
Yeah.
It was 90 degrees today.
It was humid. It was 95. Like,
it rained the last couple of days. We're wearing jackets and long sleeves, and
I was wearing shorts yesterday.
I'm looking at my little guy and I'm like, hot. Do we have fall clothes for you? We have a few.
Nothing a blanket and a hat won't.
That is true.
Help.
Got plenty of blankets and we have a knit hat. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's it for news. As we're saying, it's almost the end of the month, so we do have some housekeeping.
Yep. Poll for the Goodreads book club for October has been up, so you have a few more days to go ahead and place your vote.
Yep.
And there might be a photo challenge. I have a couple ideas in my head.
I was going to say either that, or we will more than likely do our 31 days of Halloween.
That's right.
For October, so which we need to put our collective heads together and look at the prompts from last year and see if we want to add or change anything. So, which I've had a few ideas for prompts, and they have all been as I'm lying in bed falling asleep, so then I forget by the time I wake up. So.
In the morning you're like, what was it? Darn, I don't.
Yeah.
We need one of those gadgets that we can just plop on our head and, idea.
Collect all my good ideas.
Fetch.
Yeah.
Apparently you can, if you have an iPhone, I don't know if Android does this, but if you have an iPhone, you can tell Siri to take a note.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, whether or not she writes it down correctly, that's a different story.
True.
I may think I'm saying it, succinctly, and then I look in the morning and it's gobbledygook. Like, what? Wait, what did I say? Siri's like, I don't know. Anyway, so stay tuned to the social medias closer to the end of the month for 31 days of Halloween. Get our Doctor Who fix until Christmas.
Until it comes back on.
And as we're recording this, as we mentioned earlier, the chance to win the ticket to KokomoCon goes through October 1st. But as we're recording this, you have until the end of the week. So this coming Saturday, September 30th, the end of the month, to pre-register for the Time Lord Expo cosplay contest. So get your applications in, otherwise you're going to have to hold on to it until I see you at the convention. So, there. Anyway, housekeeping. Done. Moving on. Anyone want a peanut?
There we go.
There's your segue.
Yeah.
If you hadn't
noticed,
it is the 30th anniversary of a certain beloved fractured fairy tale movie that everyone can quote in their sleep, and I'm sure.
Literally, today is the 30th anniversary. It came out September 25th, 30 years ago.
1987.
Yep.
Watch out for those rodents of unusual sizes.
Yep.
I don't think they exist.
And we may spend the next 45 minutes just quoting The Princess Bride instead of talking about it.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I do want to comment.
Our listeners would be.
Yeah, this was one of those movies where you would hear people quote it. So I knew the quotes. I knew, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya, kill my father, prepare to die. I knew, all those well-known quotes from The Princess Bride years before I ever actually saw it.
Yeah.
He's not saying true love, he's saying true blah.
True blah.
He owes you money, eh?
Yeah.
I have a slight confession to make. I know a lot of people saw this movie, like, when they're kids growing up.
Oh, I didn't.
I didn't see this until I was a junior in high school.
I didn't see
I hadn't even heard of it until then. I was like, what is this show?
I had heard
and
of
we
it,
actually
but,
watched it in Spanish class. I don't know why in Spanish class, but we did. And it wasn't in Spanish. And I was like, this movie is so hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I heard about it, but
Rob Reiner.
Yes.
I actually hadn't seen it until a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. Now to plug, I most highly recommend you read Carrie Elwes' book.
Yes.
If you're not book, do the audiobook.
Mm.
Same exact content.
But he reads it.
He reads it, and then they also pull, like, Rob Reiner, Billy Crystal from some interviews with what they have put into the autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read it. Let's see. A few years ago, Carrie Elwes was a guest at Salt Lake Comic-Con, or FanX. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And he was talking about the book and signing copies of it and everything. And I went to his panel, and like all the okay, maybe not all the stories he told, but a lot of the stories he told were actually in the book. So like if you've been to a convention where he's been a guest, you didn't get to see his panel, or if you just want to, see it and, read the book is so much fun. And it's not like, you think of those celebrity tell-all books, or like, oh, and I, worked with so-and-so on this movie, and they were this, that, and the other, blah, 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 like negative stuff. Like, no, this book is like all positive. Like,
Yes.
and the reason, and he even pointed that out in his panel, and he's like, you know what, we the cast was not antagonistic toward each other. They all got along. They were friends. I mean, yeah, Andre the Giant kind of got Carrie in a couple some trouble with a four-wheeler a couple of times. But it was like all in good fun, and they they all had just good things to talk about their time working on the movie, and it was just it's like you read that if you're having a bad day, or even if you're not, you just feel good reading it.
Mm-hmm.
As good as you feel watching the movie, even.
Yes. Well, and just to hear about the fight scenes and the practice. It's like, yeah, you're gonna learn this switching hands. What?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not left-handed. I'm not left-handed either.
Oh, and
no,
then
it
also
is just so much fun.
Another plug. This Saturday.
Oh, yes.
With friends. 7:00 Central Time. They will be pressing play and tweeting to this.
Yes.
Yep.
Movie.
So look for the
hashtag.
Oh, go ahead.
We're going to have to ask them which version they're going to be using. If it's going to be the regular or the 20 or 25th anniversary. I don't think there's much difference.
I don't think there is, but just in case.
Yeah.
But yeah, Flicks with Friends, Princess Bride. Look for the hashtags. That's a podcast run by one of the co-hosts of Traveling the Vortex, Sean. It's kind of his baby podcast, and they're doing the Princess Bride tweet along this Saturday. So if you would like to join in, and you can, please do. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you need another excuse to watch The Princess Bride again. Hello.
I just watched it earlier today, and I'm like, oh, I get to watch it again on Saturday. Yay! No. And I will put a plug that doesn't necessarily benefit like me or anyone else that I know, but, and I'm kind of mad, but I'm kind of not. Here in Indiana, we have a long-running film festival called the Heartland Film Festival. It's been going on for as long as I can remember. And they show a lot of independent movies. They're supposed to be, like feel-good movies for the most part. Sometimes they're historical dramas, that sort of thing. But, and that starts October 12th here in Indiana. You can go to their webpage to get full schedule because they show screenings all over the Indianapolis area. So they have different movie theaters that show different things. And a couple years ago, Robert Downey Jr. came to Indianapolis for a screening of one of his movies, and I was not in town. I was really mad. Anyway.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that too.
I was really mad. Anyway. But
I think you were camping, if memory serves.
Yeah, no, I was up visiting my in-laws. It was my niece's birthday.
Okay.
Oh,
wasn't sure.
Yeah, things we do for family. Anyway, so the Heartland Film Festival, it starts October 12th, and I'm sure the anniversary has something to do with it. But he also has a new movie coming out. Rob Reiner will actually be here in Indiana. The opening night screening for the film festival is a screening of his new film LBJ. But they are going to do special screenings with Rob Reiner of Stand By Me and The Princess Bride.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
Nice.
2 awesome movies.
Yes.
so there you go. If you're in the area, go watch that.
Yeah. But I'm like, apparently the Princess Bride, both of the Stand By Me and Princess Bride screenings are on the 13th of October, which right smack dab in the middle of Time Lord Expo. So, like,
I mean,
Fast timings for you.
I know.
where is the actual TARDIS when you need it?
Yeah,
Rach?
really. Or a time turner.
Seriously.
I need Hermione's time turner.
That too.
So, if anyone happens to be going to the Heartland Film Festival and that, any of those screenings with Rob Reiner and wants to send in a report to us, please do.
Yes.
We'll take feedback for sure.
We will
Or if
gladly
if you're at any other Princess Bride related event,
yes,
want us to tell us about it.
yeah.
Because I think there are a couple of movie theaters near me that are doing doing big anniversary screenings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Turner Classic Movies is doing, because they do that throughout the year when movies are having like anniversaries. They'll do, single screenings or a couple of, isolated screenings for those movies.
Yep.
So, yes, plenty of opportunities to get your Inconceivable on.
Yep.
Yep.
I do love how, like, it's a movie that we've all seen quite a few times, and we wish we could go see it in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pay money to see a movie.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm just trying to remember, and I could look this up, but I've got a baby on my arm, and he's actually asleep now. But if I remember right, I think there were reports that when Princess Bride was in theaters, it actually didn't do all that well.
Yeah.
Like it didn't get a lot of money, and so it wasn't this big hit. And it was only when it went on video that you can watch it over and over again, and people started to appreciate what it was. Because I think you hear the title Princess Bride, and you think, the grandson in the movie, he hears that title, and it's like, this sounds like a girly book, or this is a kissing book. And but then the grandfather says, it's fighting, fencing, true love, miracles, and he's like, oh, well, it doesn't sound too bad. It's what it is. The title doesn't quite do it justice, which is kind of an odd thing to say, because now everyone knows, oh, The Princess Bride, I love that movie, it's so funny, and it's all these cool things that happen, and it's not just a love story, although the love story is very important to it.
Mm-hmm.
That can't discount that enough. So I wonder if, and then people could watch it on home video, and I wonder if the title just kind of threw people for a loop when it was first out or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm speculating. But then you watch it over and over again on video, and you're just like, oh, I get it. It's actually a deconstruction of fairy tales, but you don't know it because you're just having a good time watching all the action and the humor, but also it doesn't. It's kind of a parody of fairy tales, but it doesn't mock them so much.
Yeah.
As some others would do.
Yeah, it's like it's a romance, but it's not overly mushy.
Yeah.
It's action, it's fantasy. It's got some fantasy aspects to it. I mean, mostly dead.
Yes.
Means partly alive, yeah.
I know when Wesley dies, spoilers.
Yeah. I think you're good. It's been 30 years.
When I first saw that, I had the same reaction that the grandson, and he's like, he can't be dead. He's the hero. Who gets Humperdinck? Nobody gets Humperdinck. He lives. Yeah. Why'd you read me this story?
Well, and then the romance. Is this a kissing book?
Yeah.
Someday you might not mind so much.
Well, and Peter Falk as the grandfather.
Yes. Oh, he's wonderful. Like all the casting in this movie is just the best.
Yeah. And there's some interesting. I mean, you've got. Cary Elwes. I don't know if he was that recognizable of a star then.
I don't think so. I think this was maybe one of his earlier.
Yeah, I would say probably the most like recognizable name in the cast would probably actually be Billy Crystal.
Him or Andre the Giant.
Yeah, depending on where your tastes lie as far as fandoms are concerned. But yeah, it's like well, and even I just like I said, I rewatched it earlier today, and the credits at the end, and it's going through the cast, Cary Elwes as Wesley, and it gets to Robin White, and it says introducing Robin White, like those. So I'm assuming that was one of her first major.
And now she's gone on and done. I mean, she was in Wonder Woman now,
which I did not recognize her in Wonder Woman.
I didn't either. I mean, I knew she was in it, and people were saying, "Oh, Robin Wright, she was Princess Buttercup, and now she's the general of the Amazons." And I'm like, "Oh, cool!" And I saw the movie, and I'm like, "That doesn't look like her. It doesn't sound like her."
It's been 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, she still looks gorgeous. She's just older.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because she's in I'm blanking on it now. What's that show?
What show?
She's in a show. The one with she's the president's wife. Isn't she?
Just a second, hold on.
Oh.
I know the name. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I don't think
the president's wife.
Is that her?
I just know it's a political show kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like something I wouldn't watch.
House of Cards?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
I don't watch it either. I just know she's in it, and I know it's really popular.
That's something I would watch. So.
Well, no, I just.
Not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I just know she's in it. That's all.
No,
because I was looking at Cary Elwes' IMDb page. He starred in a few films before that, but I think Princess Bride has put him on the spot because he was in a movie in '79, a couple in '84. He was in The Bride with Sting and Jennifer Beals in '85.
I think this was his either first or second movies. The big name, not the big name, but the
headliner.
Yes, headliner. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
The star. I remember in the panel that I saw him in, and this was several years ago. But I don't imagine his attitude has changed much. And he's someone asked him, or maybe he just talked about it. Was how how actors, like, there's always one big role that they're known for, and people come up to them and quote it at them all the time, and they get annoyed. And Carrie was like, no, I love it when people talk about this because I love this movie. And he's like, in fact, I know the exact 3 words that are probably going to be on my headstone when I die.
And I'm okay.
And he said, and I'm okay with that. Because he talked, just how much love and admiration and fondness he has for this movie, even though, like, that's the one that, well, I guess this and maybe Robin Hood Men in Tights was his other big one.
Yeah.
That he was just so, like, he's just so well known for, even though he has been in other things too. But I always think about that panel and I'm like, man, that was such a good panel. And I was so glad I sat in on it because it just felt like a once in a lifetime thing to have happen.
Yeah, on earlier this year, and I never got to do anything really in Indiana Comic Con. So I missed his panel, and I'm mad that I did.
I will have to dig out the video I took because there was this one guy who came up, and he's in a wheelchair, but and he's asked Carrie if he could do, because he memorized the whole the scene with Wesley and Vicini over the wine and the Battle of Wits. I was like, why can't I? I'm sorry, my brain is not working today, guys. And he memorized that, and he's like, "Can I do this? Can I do this with you?" So Carrie came down off the stage and like was sitting eye to eye with him, and Carrie was like, "I don't remember the lines," so someone had to pull up the lines off their phone and lend it to him, and the whole thing. And I have video of it. I will have to dig that out and see if I can get it on our Facebook page, because it was just so neat to see him do that live, even though he was like, I don't remember the lines. See, but he was just really gracious to do that.
That was the one part of the script that I got to see at PopCon with Twisted Tunes. And I talked about this when I did my recap of PopCon, is schedule got shifted. I ended up missing like 95% of the Twisted Tunes panel, and I caught the very end of it, and they were doing the Battle of Wits. I'm like, if this is the only part I'm going to catch, this is the best scene.
Yes.
to catch. Because it is definitely one of the, just, it's a funny scene. I mean, Carrie's portrayal, just calm. Roberts and, against just the most ridiculous, idiotic Vicini.
And he's supposed to be like the smartest guy in the world, and he's got all the brains, and he's a total imbecile.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the whole time he's just like, his plan is perfect. It's impeccable. Someone is following us. It's like, that's inconceivable.
Yeah.
Well, tell that there's the guy behind us coming. And Vicini's freaking out about it. But he's still trying to be in control and in charge.
Yeah. Which, that particular group of folks, you've got and Mandy Patinkin and Wallace Shawn.
Yeah. Well, even now, like, because we've been watching DS9, and Wallace Shawn plays the Grand Nagus of the Ferengi when he shows up, and every time he comes up, I'm like, it's Ferengi Vicini.
Yeah.
all I can hear when I hear him. Hear his voice, because he's under all the makeup and stuff as a Ferengi, but just that's what I remember, and that's what I know him as.
Yeah. Well, even in if you watch the full performance of Weird Al doing his version of TV theme songs at like the Emmys or something, and he does the Game of Thrones, which we talked about when we talked about Game of Thrones. One of those times we talked about Game of Thrones, where he takes theme songs from shows that are currently on TV that don't have lyrics. The theme songs don't have lyrics, and he added lyrics crazy lyrics, and the theme song for Homeland, which Mandy Patinkin was on. He even puts a line in there. Inigo Montoya grew a beard. So it's like, even after all this time, Mandy Patinkin, he's gone on to do, other things like, more serious roles like Criminal Minds and Homeland. But it's like, no, you're Inigo Montoya.
You're Inigo Montoya. He killed your father. Prepare to die.
Yes.
We told you guys that we're going to be quoting this.
Yes.
Yep.
It's so quotable. It's so quotable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can tell how it's touched everybody when other TV shows are paying homage and paraphrasing and leverage the studio job. Hardison and Ellison. You say pitchy one more time. I don't think you know what that word means. Nod to Princess Bride.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, what's funny is, the author, the guy who wrote the novel, didn't even think that this movie could be made. He didn't think it was possible to take The Princess Bride and adapt it to film, and he had sold the rights, thinking, to a company, a production company or whatever, to have it turned into a movie, and it never happened. He ended up buying the rights back just because he thought it was never gonna happen. And this almost didn't happen. The version that we have, they didn't get funding until like a week before they were supposed to start filming. So
there was a lot of hiccups with this.
Yeah, there were some
just getting the production going.
Yeah. There were casting hiccups. Andre the Giant almost didn't happen. They wanted to have Arnold Schwarzenegger first, but by the time, because they started the idea of adapting the movie in the late 70s when Arnold was just getting famous really as a bodybuilder. And by the time they actually got to the mid 80s and the ball really got rolling, he'd been in the Terminator and was too expensive. But actually, Andre the Giant was their first choice. Yeah, that's who they
I
had
think it
in
wasn't
mind.
the role kind of written for him in the screenplay.
Yeah. But they thought Arnold would be more bankable, but then he got too expensive. Thanks to Terminator.
That's kind of an issue.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. They do that.
A little bit.
But like if...
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, if you've read the book, I mean, it's very much a parody of, fairy tales and things like that. Because it's even down to the point where, it's, you read the cover and it's quote, or, it's supposedly an abridgment of S. Morgenstern's classic tale of love and adventure. And so William Goldman is supposedly abridging this story, and the author, and he is the author, comes in at several points in the narrative and says, this is what I cut out here because it was too boring. And because like the second chapter is about, first chapter is about Buttercup, she's the bride, and then the second chapter is about Prince Humperdinck, he's the groom. And the bride chapter is mostly about Buttercup, and she's the most beautiful woman. There you go. She started out as the fifth most beautiful woman, but then all these other women, something happened to them, and they weren't as beautiful anymore. And how she falls in love with Wesley and stuff. Well, then the chapter about the groom, there's this big long paragraph of I cut out most of this chapter because it was the history of. It was all this boring history stuff, and nobody wants to read that. So we're going to skip ahead to the plot of the story and why he needs to marry somebody, and then it cuts to quote unquote S. Morgenstern's words, and it's just so funny because I mean it's a book. And the movie's an adaptation of the book, but the book and the movie kind of go together as, they have the same kind of tone of, the humor and they, obviously there's it's an adaptation, so there's a lot that's in the book that's not in the movie, but it's still it's still they go hand in hand. So you don't have to have read the book, but it just kind of it enhances your enjoyment of the story if you have read the book and seen the movie.
I will put a link in the show notes to a video on YouTube. There's a channel called Cinefix, and they do a lot of really good, like, analytical movie videos and movies that have been adapted from books. They have a series called What's the Difference? And they will compare and contrast the differences between the books and the movie adaptations. And they've done things like Lord of the Rings and Fight Club and some others. And they have one for The Princess Bride. So I will put a link to that in the show notes, and you can watch it so that you can see, maybe you haven't read the book, or maybe you have read the book, but it's been a while and you've forgotten, where the differences may lie, and you can watch that. They do a good job of explaining, like if the director or the scriptwriter or whatever gave a reasoning why, they made those changes. They explain that. It's really good, if you're a fan of, like, getting into the more details of things about movies. And they also recently did a video about 7 things you might not, probably don't already know about The Princess Bride. So I'll put a link to that as well. So you guys can
I watched that video, and I was like, oh, I read Carrie Elwes's book. They probably got a lot of this from him. And I was like, oh wait, this is all different. So
yes.
So there is stuff that was not in the memoir that is in that video.
Yeah. And there's actually a documentary as well, and you can find it on YouTube, and I'll put the link to that as well. There's a documentary about the Princess Bride, which it's 95% a legitimate documentary. It's been a while since I watched it, but I'm pretty sure it's the same one. It's like 95% documentary and 5% that humor that you get from, there's some stuff that's added that's documentary, and I'm using air quotes, but it's them kind of poking fun at documentaries about things like this, and there's certain people who make an appearance, but you may not recognize them at first. You're like, is that person in, like, wig and makeup? And so it's pretty funny. So the whole thing, the whole Princess Bride, like, universe or whatever, epoch, I don't know what the proper term is like, it's the book, like you said, is kind of poking fun at adaptations. The movie is poking fun at, fairy tales and that sort of thing. And the documentary is poking fun at itself. So,
I love it when things can, make jokes about it, not take itself so seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And even some years ago, and I can't remember which magazine, it might have been Vanity Fair, but they did this whole, reunion issue, and they had a bunch of different shows and movies, that they got the cast back together and they did pictures. And there was one of the cast of The Princess Bride, and they had everybody there, and there was like a framed photo of Andre the Giant, because, he passed away in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, it was like all elegant and beautiful, but at the same time, it kind of was there was like this underlying thing of playfulness and good humor with the picture and the other pictures that they put together of that they were all like kind of reenacting some scenes from the movie. But then they had the interviews with the cast members and talking about the things that they loved about making the movie. And I'm like, what? I'm glad these people all like each other. I'm glad they're all friends, because it just, as much as I enjoy the movie, it kind of helps me enjoy the movie more, knowing that all these people enjoyed making it as much as they did. and that they all, talk about it, look back on it with fondness and enjoyment.
Yeah.
And not just like, oh, it was that movie I did all those years ago and people won't shut up about it.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always a nice thing when, when there's a strong fan support for, some, movie or TV show, and those that were involved have nice things to say about it. So, that's one of the things I've enjoyed so much with the Doctor Who fandom is pretty much, everyone is, more than happy to answer the same questions and tell the same stories and have nothing but nice things to say about their experience. So
yeah.
Well, what helped it continue on is word of mouth.
Yes.
And rentals. Hey, have you seen this?
Yeah.
You need to.
I mean, I never probably would have seen it if it wasn't for word of mouth. It was, like I said, it was one of those things where I'd hear people quoting it and not really have any context. And it wasn't until, eons later before I finally saw it for myself. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Now this is good. This is funny.
Yeah. Like I said, you hear the title, Princess Bride. What is this? And then you actually see it and you're like, oh, I get it now. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the soundtrack was done by Mark Knopfler.
Yep.
And for those of you who are like, who's that? Dire Straits.
Yep.
Money
for nothing and your chicks free. So. Yeah, which, is weird because the music's not anything like super epic. It's actually fairly innocuous. Like it's very simple, like guitar, until you get to the end credits, and then you get essentially the same song with lyrics, and it's Mark Knopfler singing. But unless you knew that was Mark Knopfler, you probably wouldn't know that that's the lead singer of Dire Straits.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like
I've always been like, okay, I know that voice, but I don't know who it is. Like I've probably heard it on the radio somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you said that, I'm like, okay, now I hear that, because I honestly didn't know until you mentioned it, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's where I've heard that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently that was a favor that March did for Rob Reiner, because they worked together on This Is Spinal Tap. So that's cool. Man, what else can you say about this movie? I mean, it's. I
we
think
could just sit here and quote it.
Yeah, really.
I mean, and I think all the scenes with Billy Crystal and Carol Kane, I think most of that was ad-libbed, and that was just spectacular ad-libbing.
Yep.
The two of them together.
Yeah. I think I remember a story of when Billy Crystal was doing his bit, like Rob Reiner could not be on the set because he was just laughing so hard, and he had to leave because he was, the bit was just so hilarious.
I totally believe it.
Yep.
I totally believe it. So. That's what you get when you work with people. Yeah, have fun storming the castle.
It'll work. It'll take a miracle. Bye-bye.
And remember, this is for posterity, so please be honest.
Chocolate coating makes it go down easier, but wait 30 minutes before you go swimming.
Yep. Now, No, I will say the scene in the book with Count Rugen after Prince Humperdinck kills Wesley with the machine, and Rugen is just like, oh, you killed him, and now I can't study him for pain, because he's doing like this whole big research book or paper or something on it, and he's just like, you've ruined my experiment, what am I going to do now? And he's just like so annoyed and doesn't really care that the prince has just killed somebody.
Well, even before that, when the Count's getting ready to go down into the pit, then he asks Humperdinck, he's like, I'm putting him on the machine today, you want to come down? And he's like, I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to organize, my wife to kill, the country gilda to flame for it. I'm swamped. It's like, rest. You need to rest. You don't want to overwork yourself.
You don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Exactly. That's so good. That's so good. So good. And even the people that's like, everyone's like, I mean, there's so many funny lines, and even the people that aren't comedians, like, you expect Billy Crystal to be funny, but you don't expect someone like, Chris Sarandon, I think, to be, a deadpan. Yeah, it's a deadpan humor where he's just, I'm Humperdinck, but it's like everyone's delivery of their lines, is just so good. Yeah,
I that must be down to direction or even editing or something, because it just all that stuff just seems like the timing is just so good. Yeah, and everybody was so on point, and maybe it is the actors that they just had that chemistry, and it all works. Like even Inigo and Fezzik, like their friendship is like just, it's spot on.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Oh yeah, it all just it's like we talked earlier about how they didn't think that this movie could ever be made because of how complicated the story was and everything. And I think, maybe if they didn't have the right cast and the right, I think it's just they had all the perfect things. Mm-hmm. And without one of those, it wouldn't have been as good, and it would have just been some quirky little movie that didn't do well at the box office that was forgotten. But now we're celebrating 30 years of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to say David Prowse helped Sword Train, otherwise known as the guy who played Darth Vader, and then one other Pridden.
He did that helped. Though. I mean, I know the fight scene between Wesley and Inigo was definitely influenced by the Errol Flynn type sword fights from the golden age of movies.
They got some professionals in to help them choreograph that thing, and didn't it take like several months to even just film that scene?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, when the guys weren't shooting their other scenes, they were training for that fight scene.
According to Wikipedia, that particular fight, Carrie and Mandy were instructed by Bob Anderson and Peter Diamond.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I think Bob Anderson might have trained David Prowse.
Okay, yes. That's probably
he worked with Errol Flynn. Bob Anderson did. If you watch the behind the scenes, the production with Lord of the Rings, he taught a lot of the sword work for the Lord of the Rings movies. So
that's where it was getting stuff.
Yeah.
So. Hey, it's a
mishmash.
Yeah.
It's an honest mistake to make.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get all your.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's probably only there's only so many to go around too. So it's like, surely, if that particular person didn't work on that, they probably worked with the person who did work on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's a connection in there somewhere.
Exactly. Well, especially with that high of a caliber.
Yeah. Very much so. Very, very much so. So, yeah, I mean, you learn sword fighting from the guy who taught Errol Flynn. I mean, you can't get much better than that, I think. So.
Exactly.
I know. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
It's like, I'd sign up to play that part even if I... just for that.
Yeah. So.
I might not still be very good at it, but that's what post-production is for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
It's just such a fun movie. I mean,
It is.
even like, okay, so maybe an argument could be made that like Buttercup doesn't have a whole lot to do in the movie. Like, she's just kind of there to be rescued.
Yeah.
But I think what helps this movie, like, we talk about the humor and the action and, and different things, but, you have to have, without the love story behind it, it doesn't quite have the heft, the emotional heft behind it. Because, you have those scenes where, Buttercup comes into to Prince Humperdinck and says, I love Wesley, I always have. If I have to marry you, I'll be dead by morning. And that's, they're going through the wedding, and there's a line of Inigo's after Wesley, is dying and he's screaming, and Inigo says, that's the sound of ultimate suffering. The men in black's true love marries another tonight. Who else has cause for ultimate suffering? And it's like, that's the reason they're doing all this. I mean, it's all great to have the humor and stuff, but without the love story, there's no reason for the story. It's the very first scene in the movie is that Wesley and Buttercup are in love, and so you have Robin Wright playing this part and making this person believable. And like in the book, she's kind of, the character is just sort of there. She's not really, doesn't do much, but in the movie, I don't know, there's like there's a humanity behind her, there's emotion behind her. It's kind of like she carries this movie, and I don't think people realize that quite as much when they talk about this, because everybody in this movie does a good job, but people focus on the funny lines and the scenes and everything else, and those are great, and I love them, and I'm not taking anything away from those. But at the same time, it's like, why are these characters even doing what they're doing? Like even Fezzik and Vicini and Inigo, when they kidnap her, it's like, you have to believe that someone would kidnap this beautiful princess who, is going to marry the evil prince, and they're trying to start a war and everything with all this. And, she has to carry that off and be, the title character, the Princess Bride.
Mm.
I don't know. That's just me thinking about.
And then when she realizes that the Dread Pirate Roberts is actually Wesley, she goes barreling down that hill after him instead of standing there. Uh-oh, what do I do?
Yeah, what have I done? Like, I'm coming for you, Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do that scene in the book. I know I keep going back to the book, but the scene in the book, because she can hear him yelling something as she's following him down the hill, and what he was yelling was, "Don't follow me," because he wouldn't be able to get her back up.
Mm-hmm.
But it had just been him, and she was like, "Oh, oops." But that was one of her less stupid things that she did in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, I could understand that, your true love, you thought it was dead and has come back to life. Sure, you'd follow him.
Mm-hmm.
You'd follow him down the hill, but it's a good scene. She just does such a good job.
Agreed.
All of it is wonderful.
Yeah. one will be quoting for a long time.
Yes.
Mhm. Now, has this one made the Library of Congress's protected movies yet?
That's a good question. I'm going to look that up.
It needs to be pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if it has. I know it's made several of the AFI lists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I don't know if that means anything as far as it being protected or not. You know.
Let's see what's the interwebs. The National Film Registry? Maybe not. Or preservation boards.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Okay, here's the National Film Registry titles. Let's see if this gives me what I'm looking for. In alphabetical order. Oh, you're going to make me go to the next page. Well, thank you for that. The Princess Bride. Yes, it is on the list.
Oh, good.
Yay.
There are a lot. But anyway.
Good.
Let's see, and this says apparently up to 25 films each year get added to this. But I wonder if that's films just that are made within a year, a specific year, or like they go back and say, oh, this one.
I found the list too, and it looks like they pull them from various years because it looks like it was the 2016 registry. I mean, it's along with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, A Walk in the Sun from 1949.
Oh, okay.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea from 1916.
Jeez.
Steamboat Bill Jr. from 1928. So there's...
Man, I'm gonna go through this list later and just see what's on here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Library of Congress.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Anyway, Princess Bride. We love it. Could watch it a million times and still not get sick of it.
And this would be called a couch potato film, but in a good way. Because whenever it comes on, gloop.
Yep.
Sit and watch and enjoy.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those that, well, I mean, the grandson is sick, and that's what starts this whole thing off with the grandfather reading him a story. It's like it's one of those movies you can watch, if you have a sick day and you're like, I just. Actually, you know what? Now that I mention it, the last time I watched it was right before Alex was born, and I was having pregnancy wise and just was sore and grouchy and sick. And Jared actually suggested, well, let's watch something. And he has, he's like, I've got Princess Bride on iTunes. I'm like, that's perfect. And he's got a great big computer screen in our room. And I just laid on the bed and watched Princess Bride, and it cheered me up. So I'm like, there you go. I was feeling crappy.
Chicken soup movie.
Yes, it is a chicken soup movie.
Yeah.
So anyway. If any of our listeners would like to chime in about their favorite part of The Princess Bride, or just gush over it like we have for the past however long we've been talking about it since we finished the news, you can send us feedback, or if you want to talk about anything else we talk about, because we talk about a lot of stuff, as you are probably aware. You can send us feedback. Our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, which is thefiveishfangirls.com, and find us on social media. Our main ones are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel. You can find us on, and you can also listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play. It's called Stitcher Radio, yeah. And leave us reviews there if you feel so inclined. And also, if you would like to support the podcast, we have a Patreon subscription that you can do, or you just donate to us through Patreon, or you can shop through our Amazon store, which all of this can be found on our aforementioned website. It's all there. Just go check it out and support us by following our pages, or if you want to give us money, it all goes donate to us because it enables us to continue talking about all of our favorite geeky things and letting you all know about what we think of these things. And hopefully you all get to enjoy it as well. Hope you enjoy it.
I think so.
We enjoy doing it too.
Yeah.
But happy birthday, Princess Bride, 30 years.
Yes.
Wow. And because I can't help but do it. 3 years before I was born.
Yep.
Yep. So.
It's actually the same age as my sister. It's a great movie.
Yep.
For everyone to enjoy.
Yep.
So go enjoy it.
All right. Well, I think with that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany in Bethlehem saying as you wish.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City saying inconceivable.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening and have fun storming the castle, boys.
This is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Sunny, true love is the greatest thing in the world, except a nice MLT. Mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich where the mutton is nice and lean and the tomatoes are right. Mwah. They're so perky. I love that.
You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.